Momo is an internet legend that appeared seemingly out of nowhere, but its terrifying image quickly spread like wildfire. It started as an urban myth, a creepy, bird-like woman with distorted features that could supposedly contact people through social media, demanding them to complete dangerous tasks. Momo's face, wide-eyed and frozen in a grotesque expression, became a symbol of irrational fear. But why does this image evoke such dread? What is it about Momo that taps into our deepest primal fears? To understand, we have to look beyond the pixels of a viral challenge and dive into the nature of fear itself. Fear is one of the most powerful emotions humans experience. It keeps us safe in dangerous situations, but it can also paralyze us, distort our thinking, and drive us to act in irrational ways. Fear, at its core, is an emotion that has been used both by humans and by spiritual forces throughout history. The Bible is filled with warnings about fear, and one of the clearest comes from Jesus himself in Matthew 10:28. "Do not be afraid of those who kill the body but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell." This verse strikes at the heart of what makes Momo so terrifying. Momo doesn't pose a direct physical threat. It's a viral image after all, but it taps into something much deeper, the fear of the unknown, the unseen, and the uncontrollable. It's the same fear that has haunted humanity for centuries, the fear of dark forces that lurk just beyond our understanding. But what if there's more to Momo than just a creepy image? What if the fear that it spreads is a modern reflection of something ancient and spiritual? After all, fear has been one of the primary tools used by evil throughout the ages. Could Momo be a manifestation of the same forces that Jesus warned us about? Forces that thrive on our fear, manipulating it to weaken our faith and draw us into darkness. This is where things get really interesting, because the Bible doesn't just talk about fear in the abstract. It specifically warns against letting fear control us. In 2 Timothy 1:7, Paul writes, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind." This verse reveals a crucial truth. Fear does not come from God. It's not part of his plan for us. So, if fear doesn't come from God, where does it come from? The answer might be closer than we think. The Bible is clear that dark forces exist, and they use fear to gain control over our hearts and minds. In Ephesians 6:12, Paul writes, "For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against the rulers, against the authorities, against the powers of this dark world, and against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly realms." With that in mind, Momo takes on a much darker meaning. It's not just a viral image. It's not just a creepy internet challenge. It's a reflection of the spiritual battle happening all around us, one in which fear plays a central role. The way Momo spreads, quietly, insidiously through the hidden corners of the internet, mirrors the way fear spreads in our lives. One moment, everything seems fine, and the next, a small seed of doubt or terror is planted, and it grows until it consumes us. Here's the chilling part. Could Momo be more than just a prank? Could it be a representation of the very spiritual forces Jesus warned us about, the ones that seek to destroy both body and soul through fear? There are theologians who believe that modern-day manifestations of evil, such as the Momo figure, are not just innocent hoaxes, but are, in fact, influenced by demonic forces trying to exploit the vulnerabilities of the human mind. When we open ourselves to fear, we open the door to these forces. And Momo, with its terrifying face and eerie messages, may be doing just that, planting fear in the minds of those who encounter it, drawing them further into a world of darkness. The legend of Momo might be a modern invention, but the fear it spreads is ancient. Jesus understood this fear, and he spent much of his ministry confronting it head-on. He knew that fear could be one of the greatest weapons of the enemy, which is why he consistently told his followers, "Do not be afraid." And yet, as we face modern manifestations of fear like Momo, it becomes clear that this battle is far from over. When we think about Momo, it's easy to dismiss the creepy image as a hoax, a viral challenge designed to scare people. But what if there's something more sinister beneath the surface? Could Momo be a modern reflection of the evil spirits that Jesus encountered during his time on earth? To answer that question, we need to look at how Jesus dealt with dark forces, particularly demons and evil spirits. The New Testament is filled with accounts of Jesus confronting and casting out demons. These were not just abstract stories or moral lessons. These were real events, seen and recorded by eyewitnesses, where Jesus displayed his power over the forces of darkness. In Matthew 8:28-34, we see one of the most famous examples of Jesus casting out demons. Two men, possessed by demons, came out of the tombs to meet him. These men were so violent that no one could pass that way. But when they saw Jesus, they cried out, "What do you want with us, Son of God? Have you come here to torture us before the appointed time?" Even the demons recognized Jesus' authority. And without hesitation, Jesus cast the demons out of the men and into a herd of pigs, which then rushed into the lake and drowned. This account is more than just a miraculous story. It reveals the truth about the spiritual world. Evil spirits exist, and they seek to control and destroy human lives, but even in their power, they are subject to Jesus' authority. So how does this connect to Momo? The fear that Momo spreads isn't just fear of a creepy image. It's the fear of the unknown, the fear that something is lurking in the darkness, waiting to take control. It's the same kind of fear that people in Jesus' time had when they encountered those possessed by demons. They were afraid of what they didn't understand, and they were terrified of the power that these dark forces had over their lives. But what if Momo represents more than just an abstract fear? Could it be that the legend of Momo is a modern manifestation of the same dark forces that Jesus cast out 2,000 years ago? The idea of evil spirits influencing the digital world might sound far-fetched, but it's not as strange as it seems. After all, the Bible teaches that spiritual warfare is ongoing, and the forces of darkness will use any means necessary to lead people away from God. Ephesians 6:12 tells us, "For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." The battle isn't just physical, it's spiritual. And the weapons that dark forces use aren't always obvious. In the digital age, fear spreads faster than ever before. It can take the form of a viral challenge, a disturbing image, or even a seemingly innocent online game. But behind these digital manifestations, there could be a much darker force at work. Momo's influence is insidious. It doesn't attack directly, but it plants seeds of fear and anxiety, particularly in the minds of the young and vulnerable. In that sense, it mirrors the way evil spirits operated in biblical times. The demons that Jesus encountered didn't always possess people in obvious ways. Sometimes they worked subtly, planting fear and doubt, slowly taking control of their victims' lives. Jesus warned against letting fear take root in our hearts, knowing that fear opens the door for evil to enter. In Matthew 12:43-45, Jesus speaks about what happens when an evil spirit leaves a person but returns to find the person's heart empty. The spirit brings back 7 more spirits, more wicked than itself, and they enter and dwell there. The final state of that person is worse than the first. This is a chilling reminder that when we allow fear to take control, we leave ourselves vulnerable to even greater darkness. And in today's world, fear can spread through something as seemingly innocent as an internet challenge. When people engage with figures like Momo, even in jest, They may be unknowingly inviting fear and perhaps something darker into their lives. But Jesus didn't just warn about evil spirits, he also gave us the tools to combat them. His authority over demons wasn't just something that happened in the past, it's a power that still exists today. In Luke 10:19, Jesus tells his disciples, "I have given you authority to trample on snakes and scorpions and to overcome all the power of the enemy. Nothing will harm you." This is a powerful reminder that as followers of Jesus, we have the authority to stand against the forces of darkness, no matter how they manifest. The ultimate revelation here is that Momo, with all its mystery and fear, may actually serve as a reminder of the need for faith in a world filled with uncertainty. Just as the disciples learned to trust Jesus in the midst of the storm, we too must learn to trust in the power of God when faced with the unknown. The internet, with its dark corners and viral challenges, may present new threats, but the message of Jesus remains the same. Do not be afraid. The fear of the unknown will always be a part of life, but through faith, we can confront it without letting it control us. In the same way that Jesus brought peace to the storm, he brings peace to the hearts of those who trust in him. And this is the key to overcoming the fear that Momo and other dark forces try to spread.